Baik, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. So, me and my team, today, we will be presenting about our reports regarding the research reporting critics. My team consists of 5 people, which is including me, Lutfil, and we have Muaz Haikal. We also have Fatin Nun Najiha, Dian, and also Suvarna. So, the article that we chose to do our report, which is the article that is related to chemical engineering knowledge. And our article title is Research Progress on Carbon Dioxide Capture and Utilization Technology.
Hi, my name is Muaz and I will be explaining about the article briefly. This article is written by a team of researchers led by Fu, and this article is about the overview of current technologies, specifically for carbon capture and utilization. Now, let's get into the background of the work. The shift to low carbon energy has increased interest in biofuel, which are known for their environmental benefits. However, biofuels are heavily dependent on the feedstock type, the conversion technology, and also the co-product handling, which many research lack. Thus, these research address the gap with the analysis of biorefineries to convert biomass into fuel, chemicals, and also power.
What's the research question and hypothesis to this case study? It's mainly on how to the main question to answer is how to differentiate the combination of feedstock, conversion process, and co-products allocation affected the overall carbon footprint of biofuels from integrated biorefineries. The author believes that greenhouse gas emissions are not fixed. They can vary widely depending on how the system is designed, especially on how co-products are factored in. By comparing these setups, the study is hopeful to find which pathways are the most climate-friendly and methodologically affected by the environment that affects the environmental policy and decision-making process. Now let's move on to the methodology of this case study. The process used for this research is called a life cycle assessment (LCA) approach that follows an ICO standard, meaning it's structured and intentionally recognized. With the functional unit that is the basis of comparison is 1 megajoule (mJ) of produced biofuel. They evaluated 2 scopes: 1 cradle to gate and also 2 cradle to grave, which I'll explain in a sec what that means. Cradle to gate, which includes all steps of biomass cultivation up to the point where biofuel leaves the biorefinery, and cradle to grave means which to an extent further, including the fuel and final emission released when it's consumed. Now, they explored multiple conversion pathways split into 2 major types, which is biochemical process, including converting corn stover and agricultural residue into ethanol through fermentation, and also using sugarcane bay gas, another agricultural residue used for ethanol production. Furthermore, they also process lycogenic biomass, which is a plant-based material that is hard to break down but found abundant in non-food bases. The other process that is being used is a thermodynamic process like Fischer-Tropsch synthesis, which involves gasifying the biomass into syngases and then converting it into liquid fuels. These processes are often energy intensive and sensitive to the type of electricity used, but one of the most important features of this study is how it handles co-products. When biofuels are made, byproducts such as electricity, animal feed, and glycerol are also generated. How these are treated in the life cycle analysis can drastically affect the overall carbon footprint. To account for that, these researchers compare 4 different co-product allocation strategies. 1. Mass-based allocation. 2. Energy-based allocation. 3. Economic-based allocation. And lastly, system expansion. Let's move on to the first explanation. What is mass-based allocation? It distributes environmentally impact according to the weight of each product. Energy allocation, on the other hand, is based on energy, and same with economy, where it assigns impacts on market value. What is system-based expansion? It's a more advanced method of giving credit for avoiding the need to produce equivalent products everywhere, e.g. electricity is produced, and so on and so forth. Now, to model all of this, they use data from a well-established database like Envirocon and the US DCA database. The data resources provided environmental profiles for different materials and processes. The modeling was carried out using CIMAPRO software, a tool commonly used in environmental impact analysis. The research also ran sensitive analysis to test how the results would change if different assumptions were made, like changing energy sources or using alternative co-product values. This helps check whether the findings are robust and whether they are heavily dependent on specific input choices. Now, moving on to the results and conclusion part of this case study to conclude my part. So what did we find? Or what did they find specifically? They found two major differences in greenhouse gas emissions depending on the type of biomass used, the conversion process, and especially the co-product treatment. Ethanol from sugarcane base had one of the lowest carbon footprint. That is because the process is energy efficient and uses agricultural waste that avoids environmental costs by growing dedicated biofuel crops. Corn stover, and the other lignolistic materials also showed low emission, particularly when the system expansion method was used. The method gave credit for co-products like electricity, which can replace fossil fuels on the grid. The other hand, the thermodynamical pathway, especially when using fossil fuel-based electricity, showed higher emissions. That is due to the greater energy demands and the low carbon intensity of the power use. What is the biggest takeaway from this study, or the few biggest takeaways from this study? The way co-products are accounted for can drastically change the carbon footprint. For instances, when system expansion often shows the lowest carbon emissions because the credits in the system for avoiding other polluting processes. And number two, energy and mass-based allocation is in contrast don't offer that much of a benefit, often resulting in more higher emissions. Conclusion is clear. Biofuel sustainability doesn't just depend on feedstock or the process, it also hinges upon a counter model and the life cycle analysis. This has serious implications for policy decisions when it comes to sustainable standards and how we are comparing it to more renewable systems. With that, moving on to the next part.
This article has a few major weaknesses. First, it lacks transparency. Big claims like 80% energy reduction are made without explaining how the numbers were calculated or under what conditions, making it hard to trust or replicate. Secondly, it only gives a surface-level comparison of CO2 capture technologies. Key factors like cost, scalability, and environmental impact are missing, and the differences between methods are not clearly explained. Finally, the article doesn't discuss real-world challenges like regulations, safety, or industrial costs. Technologies like MOFs or microalgae sound promising in lab, but without discussing how they work at scale, the article remains too theoretical and not helpful for policy or real implementation.
Now, we go to the reflection of usage of artificial intelligence. The question here is AI really a tool or a threat? For my team, it is really a useful tool for us to enhance the efficiency to do our report. So, the first point that I want to bring here is about time efficient. Instead of reading line by line on the whole article, AI help us to summarize the article in just a few seconds. This is also help us to go for multiple sources in just a short of time. Next, simplified complex content. Some academic articles actually use technical language and also have dense writing styles. With AI, it can help us simplify down the context of the article, and it is easier to digest the summaries, which give us a better starting point to start our report. The third point is blended tech and thinking. Although AI is really helpful and a very useful tools for us, actually, we as a human being also need to think critically. AI doesn't replace human. It actually support us to do our daily tasks. And the last point is a guided initial reading. Instead of immediately reading the whole article, we actually use AI summary to judge whether the article is useful for us to read or not. So this is help us prioritize better and manage our workload.
My name is Fatina Najaha, and the key takeaway points from the conclusion is that the article review offers a very comprehensive introduction, like a very broad overview of carbon dioxide capture and utilization technologies. It offers a useful entry point for newcomers to the field, but it has very limited methodological transparency, and it lacks clear explanation of source selection and evaluation. it is very insufficient in terms of critical comparison between different technologies, and it also has a very minimal real-world context in terms of it lacks discussion of implementation and challenges in industrial and regulatory settings. So a few recommendations for future article reviews is that you have to apply rigorous source evaluation and integrate techno-economic and environmental assessments to engage more deeply with real-world industrial and policy environments.
That is all from our team. Thank you.